Alrighty, what is up, people of the internet? So I wanted to hop on here and do a review for you all on Aerial Knight's We Never Yield. Um, so yeah, we're gonna get into it, and we are going to talk about it. So yeah, I mean overall the game itself was pretty solid. I enjoy the, I think the thought process and the heart that uh, that Ariel Knight slash Neil Jones, Neil J has behind the Never Yield series, because it's now a series, or I think, I mean technically it was a series at the end of Never Yield, although you didn't find out until I think he didn't have that in the game until after the update. So yes, so I think that is something uh, that was later on. It wasn't immediately in the start of Never Yield. Like you can play through, and then it was an after credit scene uh, type of situation. Which, spoiler alert, it's going to be a third one. I'm not going to share the specifics on what the what the third one's going to be on, just because that's more story oriented. So I'll do my best to keep this uh, story spoiler free as a whole. Um, yeah, and then as a disclaimer, I know I've mentioned in the various streams slash gameplay recordings that I've done of We Never Yield that I actually did receive a copy for this through the one of Neil's contacts at HeadUp, who provided effectively a review code. And yeah, so I just wanted to go into a little bit about the game and a little bit about just my my general thoughts on the game as a whole here. So here we go. Alrighty. So yeah, getting into the game itself, since I already mentioned that disclosure. Um, so basically, the game itself is still very much so in the same format as the original Never Yield. So it's an endless runner. You end up not only playing as Wally, you also play as Lone, who I refer to as Shadow Wally with the previous game. So to get into more of like mechanics and whatnot, because I think that's a key point for me, and I'll try not to make this too long. So you still have the same four functions, right? You still have the same four controls in regard to playing as Wally and playing as Alone. So you have, I mean, give or take. So technically, the you have up, which is jump, down is slide still. Uh, Left doesn't do anything as of yet. I don't recall it doing anything in the first one. So I think that stays true in the second one as well. And then as far as it goes with the right button, so the right button actually ends up picking up the function of attack, and it is attack now instead of sprint, right? So you press right, and if there's an obstacle, a barrier, whatever in the way of either Lone or Wally, which I might just disclosure, I might refer to Lone as being Shadow Wally here a couple of times throughout the review, just as a heads up. So, oh, and then the sprint itself actually ended up being swapped over to the special bar. So that's one of the main things that was added. Is there's a special bar, and then that ended up being where the overall, uh, if you did like a trick or, no, not a trick, if you jumped over an obstacle, slid under an obstacle, avoided the obstacle, destroyed it, whatever, that would build up. And then eventually you got pretty much like you can press whatever key, and then you effectively not actually, uh, not actually be like, get messed up, or your character would effectively, die. Um, while playing. So if you had like a slide obstacle and you had a full special bar and you used the full special bar, which would then decrease after you started to use it, Wally would do his thing, and you basically ended up getting it where the jump button for like a slide obstacle would still have you pass that obstacle, so you wouldn't actually be affected, as far as it goes in relation to uh, the obstacle. Like, you wouldn't be messed up, so that's cool. And then also along with that, so when one is going through on it. So overall, I'll say as more of an overview, the story is still phenomenal. The world building is still phenomenal. Um, I can't think of anyone specifically that has had the same worldview or the same view of uh, of things in the way that Neil does, and I just really appreciate uh, him sharing sort of his view of the world and the world that he builds, right? So that's still really solid. Um, the story is still there. I enjoy the fact that there's still, like, you still have a lot of good environmental storytelling, which I still, I very much so appreciate that, and glad that that was still kept in with this game. And then the uh, the addition of voice acting was nice, right? And I think it was good in the sense of it being a level up type of situation. Um, yeah, I think that was definitely pretty fun. And then the cosmetics and whatnot, the little odds and ends, uh, things like that were pretty solid as well. Um, yeah, so this one was interesting. The story did well. Actually, there's still sort of. I mean, the story seemed to take a little bit of a. Uh, how do I say that? It ended up being. It's not in the same vein as the first one. It's more of a arriving back to what family should be type of situation after being in a space where it's not really there, I suppose, would be the best way of formatting or like explaining that. So like one didn't really, yeah, it's sort of like a rediscovering family uh, story, I think would be the best way of putting it versus like fighting the evil corporation type of situation. Um, still positive. I enjoyed it. Again, the voice acting was cool. Uh, to start to get into some caveats and criticalness in regard to the game, one thing that was a bit different, a bit challenging in terms of, uh, perhaps challenging to my enjoyment of the gameplay, that might be the best way of putting it, would be that I think in some, excuse me, I think in some areas where the the gameplay could have been better, right? For instance, there are some odds and ends like models wouldn't work, or like, and this was after, so I did play it on two different devices. However, when I got onto like a computer that was, more well above the recommended settings, um, or I should really say more well above the minimum settings, um, like double the RAM and core count and everything. Uh, that it was something where the models would end up having issues, and it would end up being where, um, like there'd be like kind of T-pose moments on like the zip line, um, things like that, or like the cutscene wouldn't complete the um, for like the special bar, things like that, and it'd be kind of like eh. So, I think sometimes I would have been more okay if Wally and Lone didn't have voice lines during the actual levels, and if that time specifically went more into, um, more into like fixing like the special bar. So, for instance, like the special bar wouldn't necessarily work in regard to, sometimes you press Q and E or the special activation keys, and it would end up being, uh, what would be the word? Like it ended up just jumping, or it just cut out completely, um, and things of that nature. Or yeah, even then, if it was not a full bar, then one couldn't use like sprint, things of that nature. So that I would have liked to have seen more of the, uh, more of that being developed, like more of the mechanic being developed, such that when you're playing, the mechanics are, uh, you know, they're mechanics. They're mechanical. You know, if you're playing the game, you don't want or if you're driving a car, you don't want the engine to break down type of thing. So if you're playing a game, you don't want the mechanics to break down. So with that being said, I use the the sprint and the special. I didn't use it a lot because my intent wasn't to speed play through it and everything. Um, so I think that's something that I wasn't, outside of it just being like, oh man, I can't, use it. It wasn't that big of a deal. Um, I think it's just for those moments where I really had that, like, I wanted to, go into it and like really lean into, trying to do like really crazy, like super fast, runs or something like that, which was, every now and then. However, it wasn't my main intent with playing it. I just wanted to play the game and enjoy the game, because I wasn't sure if slash when I'd get to. So, just those moments where it was like, ah, man. I think the only other bit of critique that I'd have would be the fact that one, for the actual sort of video game culture-y vibe that the first one had, I think that one, and I didn't really play through the challenge levels. I just wanted to get through that main, uh, that main story mode, because that's all I played through really with the first one. I think I did a couple of challenge levels with the first one. However, I would have liked to have seen maybe a bit more of that uh, circulate, and maybe it's something that's still in there. I mean, it's something where I'm still going to play through the game, again at some point. However, just something I didn't see directly in the story mode like it was really with the first one. That's outside of like the arcade machines, or kind of more arcade aesthetic with the clothes, with the weapons and the clothes. So I think those were one of the main things that were really prevalent in my mind. So again, overall, I think that the game was enjoyable. I think it's like $14.99 on Steam. Definitely think it's worth it. Definitely think it's worth it even before the whatever patch or the update that he might do for this for this entry into the series. Looking forward to We Never Yield 3, hoping that I'll be able to get a copy of that as well in the future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you ever watch this, Mr. Aerial Knight slash Neil, and yeah. So overall, I just I'm not big on putting a number on it. I mean, definitely a B and above range for sure. Uh, I would just say that it's worth playing. So shout out to Mr. Aerial Knight, uh, slash Aerial Knight slash Neil Jones. Not sure why I added Mr. And Head Up, and yeah. So looking forward again to the third entry, and yeah, hopefully you all found this review slash critique helpful and enjoyable. And if you have a chance, definitely check out the uh, Aerial Knight We Never Yield gameplay that I put out on YouTube. I think I have at least part one out. So definitely check that out. And yeah, hopefully you all have a good one. All right. Peace.
One last little bit of critique that I did not mention in the previous parts of the video. So the soundtrack, if you like the soundtrack in Never Yield, then you'll like the soundtrack in We Never Yield. So I just wanted to add that while I remembered, and hopefully, again, y'all enjoyed this review. You check out the game, and yeah, peace.